gotta be sophisticated and civilized about how we create our businesses.
I have a group of people that I trade with all the time, and I loan them money, they loan us money. I make investments in their projects, they invest in mine. So building an economic system, whether it's big or small, is all about having an economic machine that works to provide you with security so everybody can feed their kids and raise their families and be okay.
When it comes to group economics, I totally believe in it. I believe in it so much, I've invested tens of thousands of dollars to create our own real estate fund, which is a Tulsa Real Estate Fund. So everyone that invests in Tulsa Real Estate Fund will have a minimum investment of $50. You can buy a brick of Black Wall Street for $50. And not only does that money support the investment and development, you get an 8% preferred return on your money and your prorated share of equity in the project. So now your grandma to a 16-year-old kid can invest in a fund, be an owner of a hotel or a hospital or a building, and reap the benefits, the financial benefits, and be a part of a larger collective.
It's time for us to go back into our own community and start buying up property. You know that crack house that's down the street? We can turn that into a daycare, maybe even a school or community center. That abandoned parking lot that's on MLK Drive, we can turn that into a garden to grow our own fruits and vegetables that we can sell at a Black-owned grocery store that's employing melanated people. So let's buy the block, because at the end of the day, it boils down to real estate.
Real estate is the core of power and control. All the wars are fought over what? Over real estate, over resources. The earth is one big ball of real estate. So those who own win.
Most black people don't know anything about a Roth IRA. They don't know anything about a 401k plan. They know they got one if they got a job, but they don't know what to do with it.
Growing up, they would say cash is king, but credit is actually king. Your credit is what keeps you afloat when you don't have any money, but you have credit cards, or you can go get an instant loan if you have a flat tire, or you going through a divorce, or even if you're getting married, you can just sign your name on a dotted line. Credit is also important if you want to become a homeowner, or you want to own a new vehicle or used. When you need a student loan, you want to be a doctor, you want to be a lawyer, you need credit.
We have to start teaching economics in the home. That's where it starts. That's where the economic base starts.
The acronym that I put together is a model I call the KID model, KID. KID stands for Knowledge, Investment, Discipline. Knowledge means that in your household, your child learns financial literacy and entrepreneurship before they learn how to dribble a basketball, throw a football, sing, dance, rap, act, all this other nonsense that our kids are learning. They learn how to start a business because that is critical for their survival. Before you send them to college, don't send them to college without putting them in an entrepreneurship program. Investment means that from the time your child is born, you buy them $100 worth of stock every month. It doesn't matter which stock you buy. The theory shows that if you just buy $100 worth of stock every month for your child and you do it over a 20, 30, 40 year period, by the time your child is 30, they're going to have at least $300,000 or $400,000 available in capital. That's going to be money that they can use to buy a home. It's going to be money they can use to start a business. They can get married without going into debt. They can go to college without getting massive student loans and dying in debt, all these other things. So you invest in your child so that when they get this knowledge, they can apply the knowledge because they have a capital base that they can work with. Discipline allows them to have the ability to say, I'm going to invest in my life right now so that in the future I can have a better life. If you work your ass off your whole life and you accumulate some wealth and leave it to your kids, there is a 70% chance that your children will blow all of that money. 70% of all wealthy families lose all their money in the next generation. And I think it's 90% lose it within 2 generations. So what does that mean? That means that everything you learn, everything that you apply to make yourself successful, you must prepare your children to not only know how to go out there and get that money, but to also know how to protect the money that's given to them. My kids are not gonna have full access to my wealth until they're about 35 or 40 years old. They'll get pieces of it as they go along, but it's not until about the age of 40 that kids are mature enough to know how to preserve wealth. So building wealth is hard to do, but it's very simple steps. Once you build it, you must protect it. And that doesn't just mean protect it while you're here, it means protecting it after you're gone.
When Hitler rose to power, what did they burn? They burned books.
Education has the power to change the trajectory of any nation and any community and any person. But when we are not giving a fair education, when we're not receiving the equal education, then we must press the issue about raising the answer, or question of why.
They close the schools in the community where there's a heartbeat of each community, and they send them over where families don't feel safe to travel because of territory, because someone asked them who you riding with, and you answer no, and they shoot you anyway.
My dream and my hope would be that one day we could teach the actual accurate history, which is not taught. The history that is taught is from a European point of view, it's from a white point of view.
Tell the truth. Just tell the truth. Why would you take slavery out of a textbook to teach it? They absolutely should not take any history out of any book. Good, the bad, or the ugly.
You know, they create heroes and they say that our founding fathers were heroic, but yet many of our founding fathers were savages in the way that they treated people of color.
How are our textbooks leaving out these little snippets of history that my people have contributed? So, do we need a Black History Month? No, we need to include Black people in America's history. It's what we need to do, because America's history is Black history. There's no need for a Black History Month because January is Black History Month. February is Black History Month. March, April, May, June, July, August, September, October, November, and December.
You know, one of the biggest lies that Black people have been fed is that we are so pathetic, that we are so ignorant, we are so weak, we are so broke, that we don't have the ability to educate our own children. And so one of the biggest mistakes that we make as a community is that we hand our children right over to not only their oppressor, but to a system that's proven that it ruins more Black children than it actually strengthens.
I think it's very important for us to educate our own youth, because as we look across the nation, we see the lack of African-American male teachers, African-American female teachers, the lack of Black teachers as a whole.
When you look at the scope of teachers in these classrooms, generally speaking, a lot of times they're white women who can't necessarily relate to us, so when we quote-unquote act out, they already are looking at us like a nuisance. Statistically speaking, we're 3 times as likely to get expelled or suspended versus our counterpart because they don't know how to deal with us.
I absolutely think that we should have our own schools. I think it would benefit us.
If we're constantly being taught by other people about their race, their language, their heritage, their culture, their way of thinking, we're only prepared to solve their problems.
If we could structure our schools where we're teaching our children in a way they can be taught, we're teaching them things that they want to learn, we're teaching them things that they need to learn, and on top of that, they're looking around and seeing their own reflection.
We need to make sure that the Black church is investing in our young people so that they will invest in a community that they change, and that they help change for us.
Remember that all the information that you need to educate a child is right there on the internet. There are thousands of experts out here who run homeschools online where you can educate your kids. So I would argue that we have to just yank our kids out of these systems instantly because these systems are destroying our children.
And if your child is going to be in a white school, it's important that when your child comes home, you cross-reference everything. Just take a few minutes and say, what did you learn today? Is that what they told you about Christopher Columbus? Let me tell you the truth.
You know, a lot of us today, what we lack are like plumbers or your mechanics. Those are dying fields, and I think having those Black schools and institutions will be able to promote some of those dying fields, dying industries, and some of the things that we need to sustain.
I would like for my daughters to go to a HBCU. I even try to pick their colleges for them now because I think it's important to see other African Americans doing great things.
You can't mention HBCUs without mentioning American history or world history. Look at some of the great minds and the great thinkers, the great leaders that have come out of HBCUs. You have your Booker T. Washington, you have your Martin Luther King, your Ida B. Wells. George Washington Carver was not necessarily an HBCU graduate, but he played a huge role in Tuskegee.
Whenever you want to conquer a group of people, first thing you do is you either destroy their media or you take over the media.